First of all, I just want to address, I'm wearing sunglasses. Not because I think I'm cool, but because my therapist thinks that it will help me regulate sensory input for now, while things stabilize a little bit. This week, I'm actually not painting. I'm gonna build a canvas out of this and this. Okay, so I'm gonna be pausing shorts for now, just because I am going through a quite intense period in time, and I kind of just need to stabilize. But then once I stabilize, then we'll start adding things in one by one. And you guys can see my favorite piece that I've recently completed. All right, so this piece is gonna be 50 inches by 50 inches. I really like working in a square aspect ratio. Don't ask me why. Well, it's actually 51 inches by 51 inches, because the canvas is 57.5 by 57.5. So we're leaving ourselves a decent little space. Let me grab my circular saw so I can cut off the pieces that are all fucked up. Because here's the thing, man. I buy my wood from just the local Ace Hardware, and they store it outside all year round, and it just warps the fuck out of the wood, dude. Okay, so man, this week has been like a weird week for me because well, first of all, I just had this intuition that it's going to be like a big week for me somehow. And I think the selfish earthly part was hoping that it would be something that was like, you know, maybe my social media would blow up or something like that. Maybe I would sell a big piece. Maybe I would do something like that, but that's not really what happened. But I did learn a lot about myself this week, and so that's, I think, a big win. But I will also say it's been a weird week because I did have like, not, you know, a huge amount of success on social media, but I had I got to talk just very briefly, just like 2 messages with this guy jakedebus art on Instagram. He does like art critiques, and that was cool. He makes really good points. And then also I got a couple of DMs about the art that I've been making, which really blew me away. Like, wow, I didn't realize. Not to sound too dim on myself, but I didn't realize what I was doing had an impact on people. And so to hear that meant an incredible amount to me. Like, I can't even describe to you guys how much it meant to me. But then at the same time, I realized that, like, man, social media is really just not that important. And don't get me wrong, like, the communication that I have been lucky enough to have with you guys is very important to me. But it's just like the actual posting and the actual scrolling and all of these things is not important. But it's hard because, like, since I've been dealing with this neurological stuff, man, I have so much more time than I used to, because I have a lot of time that I spend in a dark room just trying to decompress, and that's perfect scroll time. But it's not good for your brain, you know what I mean? The saw's really loud, but I'll get through it. This week, though, I want to say the stuff that I've been talking about for the past couple of weeks, the FND and all that, it's starting to get better because of the sunglasses, and then I've also been wearing noise-canceling headphones all the time, and that's been a huge, huge help. Like, it's been incredible how well it works. I'm currently doing some testing for various things with my therapist to kind of figure out what exactly is going on, because it seems, I have a sliver. It seems to be more than just functional neurological disorder. So we'll see what happens. But like, what I really wanted to touch on today is just that contrast of, like, I feel really, really glad that things have been like working, I guess, and that I'm able to have a positive impact on some people through these videos and stuff, but at the exact same time, it's weird because it's this like dopamine thing where like when you're at the very beginning and you have nothing, getting like 1 or 2 followers or 1 or 2 comments or whatever you're talking about engagement wise, huge, feels massive. And then like I don't have shit for a following, and yet the dopamine's already depleted. So it's showing me that like this whole thing doesn't matter in the way that I think it does. What matters is the art itself. Like, it matters to put it out there and to be able to interact. With cool people, but it doesn't matter how many likes you get, how many views you get, how many followers you get, anything like that. None of that fucking matters at all. The only thing that matters is the art you're making and do you love it. And that's the only thing that's gonna exist in the end. Because I'm gonna die, you know? And the only way that you can continue to have some sort of positive impact is through the art. But it's like, am I looking too far into the future? Am I being grandiose? Am I trying to make something out of nothing? Am I like, it's a really weird and confusing time for me right now. But I want to try to get back to focusing on the art itself and not focusing on how I can distribute the art. You know what I mean? Here's a nice piece of wood. That'll do just fine. I learned early on in creating art that it is highly important to learn how to make your own canvases, how to stretch them, and how to make your own frames and shit like that, because it's so expensive if you just buy from a store. It's incredibly expensive. Like, especially when you paint large canvases, you're talking like hundreds potentially for a canvas, if not, you know, like $100 or whatever. But like, I want to be able to paint huge canvases every fucking day. I still can't afford that, but this makes it a lot better, a lot less expensive. What I do is I go to Ace Hardware and I buy a canvas drop cloth, which is like something you put on the floor while you're painting a house, and then I just buy 1x2s, and I make a frame out of the 1x2s, and then I stretch the canvas drop cloth over the 1x2. It actually works super, super well. I had a solo exhibit back in November, and all of my pieces were canvas drop cloth with 1x2s. Didn't sell anything, so it must not have been that impressive. But I did create enough things out of 1x2s and canvas drop cloth to have a solo exhibit, so that was something. I was at the Woodland Park Art Gallery here in Colorado. It was formerly called Reserve Art Gallery, but I think they realized that doesn't, that kind of sounds like you're like a pay-to-play place, which it is not. But I think the idea behind the name is like, you know, reserve our parks type deal. Because we're in a mountain town and it's all about nature and whatever. Man, this is gonna be a tight fucking stretch, but we'll get it done. But I want to talk about, like, let me just sit down for a second. I've really been struggling because I feel like I need to be creating all the time. Like, I was, when I first started painting, I did 60 paintings in 60 days. And so, like, my perspective on that is like, the faster you iterate, the quicker you become better. But at a certain point, creating a brand new painting every single day becomes a lot. And now I've slowed down to about 3 paintings per week, which is not a lot for me. And so I've been really struggling because I don't want to feel like I'm like losing the fire. You know what I mean? I don't want to feel like I'm slowing down to the point where I'm not going to become what I want to become. And honestly, like, I understand logically that you have to live life outside of art to have material to create art with, but there's just this nagging feeling inside of me of like, you need to do more, you need to do more, you need to do more, you need to do more. And I don't know where that comes from. I don't know how to stop it either. This is actually a piece that I completed a couple months ago, shortly after the solo exhibit. The last time that I was feeling like this, actually kind of funny. And then I sat down and I watched Jiro or Hiro, I don't know how it's pronounced, Dreams of Sushi. And that's just about a guy who loves the art. I keep saying the F word, and I don't have a problem with swearing, but I think it cheapens what you're trying to say if you just keep saying it all the time. But anyways, I sat down, I watched Jiro Dreams of Sushi, and I laid this canvas out really big on my floor, and I made a piece on the floor. I usually paint on an easel like you guys watch, but I wanted to shake things up, and I did, and it did shake things up, and it really changed my perspective, and it changed how I made art, and it helped develop my current style. But now I'm getting to a point where like my current style feels stagnant, and I want to evolve again. And so usually the way that I work is I go through like a creative explosion. I'll do like 5 pieces in a night. And then the next day I'll do like a couple more pieces and a couple more pieces and a couple more pieces. And each one is not quite what I want. It's not quite what I'm envisioning, but each one gets a little bit closer and a little bit closer and a little bit closer until I fucking nail it. And then eventually I nail it and I'm like really happy with it, but then I get overwhelmed because like I look at it and I go, that was a good piece. Now I gotta do it again and again and again and again and again. And then I get depressed and I don't paint as much for like a week usually. And then I kind of overcome that, and then I start integrating that whatever I did in that new piece into my style. And then slowly but surely that style gets it gets stagnant again, like I'm feeling right now, and then it calls for another explosion. So I'm in this like phase right now where like I'm due for another explosion, but I don't have the energy for it because I am dealing with all of this neurological stuff. And that's not like I really hate saying that because I don't like making excuses, but it is kind of just the truth right now. Like just talking to you guys without headphones on, my own voice is like very abrasive to my sensory input. That's why I'm wearing the sunglasses, because if I don't, the light's too much. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out a way to just sort of like exist and take in the world a little bit and not try to force an explosion that doesn't want to happen. So that's why I'm building this piece, because I feel if I don't want to paint, I shouldn't force myself to paint, but I should do something that's going to set myself up in the future to paint, and especially paint in a way that could potentially lead to one of these next explosions. A lot of my best work, in my opinion at least, happens on square canvas. So that's why I'm doing this square piece. I really love square pieces. I don't know what it is about it, but I really love the square, like the square aspect ratio. I think that like helps kind of bring something out in my art. But that's neither here nor there. What I'm talking about is just this this stagnation that I feel and how I'm trying to figure it out. And honestly, like, I don't have a solid answer for you guys. I hope, I mean, if you've watched any of my work or anything like that, like, I hope you kind of see that, like, I generally try not to provide solid answers for anything, because I think there's very few things in this world that there's solid answers for. Like, lately I've been seeing a lot of art critics on Instagram, and maybe that's just because of like my algorithm. I'm sure that that's a huge factor in it. And oftentimes, like, there's this guy that's like, the 4H or the 4, I don't know what the fuck letter he uses. We gotta look for this in this piece. Or what, this piece is bad because this person is just doing a movement. It's not really hard. Or this person, this Rothko sucks because it's just a square on a canvas. And it's like, who the fuck are you to say what art is? Like, why? I haven't heard a single person be able to like, sure, you could probably, if you go to art school or whatever, you probably have a professor that tells you this is art and this is how we determine how good art is. But like, that dude's not creating art on a level of like a Picasso or a Basquiat or a Van Gogh, or name your favorite artist, Michelangelo, fucking Da Vinci, whatever the fuck. Even if they were, their opinion would only be that. Their opinion. And that's why each artist is unique. And so it's like, for you to be able to say like, oh, this is art, this is what's good, this is what's right, is complete bullshit. I don't care how educated you are, I don't care how successful you are, I don't care any of that. Because like, realistically speaking, it's like, what touches you? And if it doesn't touch you, fine, that piece is not for you. Like, if I look at a Rothko through a screen, it doesn't do shit to me. But I'm sure if I went and saw it in person, I would have some emotions that I see at it, or that I see from it. Basquiat, in my opinion, is like the greatest artist still to this day. We haven't had another person as good as him since the 80s. And I think a big part of that is because his work speaks through a screen. Like, something about it, the visceral quality, the text, the symbolism, all of that, it speaks through a screen. And that doesn't mean that he's less great or more great or anything like that. It just means that it translates to our time really well right now. That's why you see all these people being like Basquiat clones, which, like, there are some people, don't get me wrong, undeniable, like just copying the way that he does forms. But there's a lot of people who also go, oh, this is a Basquiat clone. And it's just like an expressive work with colors. Like, I've heard people say that my work is just like a Basquiat clone. Maybe it is. Maybe that's what their perspective was, and that's fine. But like, if I look at my stuff, it does not look at all to me like a Basquiat. And second of all, I don't know I don't know what number I'm at, but that would be a fucking compliment. Like, I guess not necessarily. It's not hard to copy the way that he does forms, but like, what was, in my opinion, the most genius about his work is the way that he dissects language. It's like the way that he abstracts language is very similar to the way that the best, and I used that word, the best, which is subjective, but anyways, is the way that really good artists will abstract form. But he did it with text, and then mixed it with form and symbolism in a really unique way. Like, honestly, that's why I started making paintings, is because I learned about Basquiat. I had never heard of him before. Well, I'd heard of him, but I had never seen his work, and I watched a couple documentaries on him, and I realized, like, oh, art doesn't have to be this like elitist, like somebody trains for, 20, 30 years just to get realism on point to be considered an artist. You can just approach it with your own perspective and you can make contributions. And that was so inspiring that I started painting and ended up making it like my entire life, basically. Because I pursue this full time. Like, I make paintings and I make videos, and that's what I do. I was streaming for a while, and I love streaming, but it's just not, it doesn't do the same that painting and videos do, for me at least. Yeah, I'm just kind of sitting here because I don't have I have I've created this frame, and now I just need to glue it together and let it sit overnight. And then we're gonna stretch it and paint it, or stretch it, gesso it, and then paint it. But I wanted to like sit and talk to you guys a little bit more like uninterrupted, because I've at least mastered like when I'm in frame and when I'm not in frame while I'm making these paintings. And see, I'm pointing to something you can't fucking see, but I've mastered like when I'm in frame there, but I haven't figured it out yet. Oh, by the way, my bad for not showing you guys that video or that painting that I wanted to show you last week. Like I said, I've been dealing with a lot, and editing, just looking at a screen right now is a lot of stimulation. And so I have not been able to do much editing. And so just even going through and watching my entire video has been too much for me. So I've been just literally taking these monologues, doing the most bare minimum editing that I can, and then sharing them with you. And these are all off the top of my head, so I don't write scripts either. Let me show you a couple pieces. I'll show you the two that I completed this week, and then I'll show you the one that I did not show you guys last week that I was supposed to. So here's the one I finished yesterday. I hope this is in focus. I have no idea at all. But I finished this piece yesterday. This one only took me like 15 minutes. Some of them take me days, some of them take me weeks, but this one took me 15 minutes. And it came out as good as any of them, I think. I really like it. Here's the next piece I finished. This one's much smaller. This one not the next piece, but I finished this one the day before yesterday. You guys will be the very first to see this because this hasn't been posted anywhere else. It's on an extremely warped canvas, so I have to fix that. But I finished this one last week, and I view it as my best one because it carries a lot of the elements of everything that I've learned to this point. And it actually holds a form decently well, I think. I really like this. I hope you guys like this too. I'm honestly very concerned about my ability to stretch canvas right now because I tore my tendon that connects my ring finger here into my arm 3 weeks ago. It's much stronger now and I can use it for things, but it's still a little bit fragile. Basically what happened there was I had to move. So I grow my own plants, and I do it in a no-till style, which no-till in a very, very short and overly simplified fashion is basically you're just trying to mimic what nature does. So it's layering. You grow cover crop, you chop cover crop. Cover crop will then decompose on the soil, create compost with other stuff, and then the worms eat it, turn it into worm castings, or into, I think it's called worm castings. And then that serves as food for your plants. Instead of using like synthetic nutrients or something like that, you're basically creating compost naturally in your own soil beds. So the point behind all of that is I have a 3 foot by 3 foot by 1.5 foot soil bed that was in one of my grow tents, and I had to move it because I had to replace the grow tent itself because it was leaking a lot of light, and that's really bad for plants. It'll cause them to hermaphrodite, where they basically start releasing pollen, even though they're female plants, which then cause seeding, and that's not what you want. So I had to move that, and I just kind of inserted my fingers into the corner, kind of like this, and I pulled, and that thing's probably like 300 pounds. And so when I was like, you're not lifting the full 300 at once because you're not lifting the whole thing, but it's a lot of weight. And I just felt a big boop. And yeah, my tendon snapped. And so then I had to baby the shit out of it. Luckily, it was my non-painting hand, so it did not slow that down, but it was my editing hand, so it did slow that down. Yeah, that sucked. But anyways, I think that's all that I have for you guys this week. I wanted to touch on sort of like that weird paradox of like being super grateful for the engagement that I've been getting, because I was getting almost no engagement before now. But at the same time, like wanting to focus back on art again. And that doesn't mean that I'm not grateful to every single person who has commented, liked, viewed, anything like that, messaged me, anything like that. Like, I sincerely appreciate every single ounce of engagement that I have gotten. But at the same time, it just makes me want to focus more on my art and less on content, which is weird. I don't think I should feel that way, but I do feel that way. And I really hope that doesn't come across as like that I'm not grateful, because it means, I mean, seriously, like I cried when I had people message me for the first time saying that what I've said like affected them in some way. Because I've spent like my whole life feeling very much unseen and and so to finally feel like seen and heard was like, I mean, like I said, it made me cry. It was one of the biggest, like one of the biggest moments. But at the same time, I noticed myself being affected by it, and I don't ever want my work to be anything other than like what's directly inside of me, without any sort of and there's probably always going to be some sort of influence, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say here. Yeah, that's about it though. I really do love you guys. I really appreciate you watching. I really appreciate the comments. I really appreciate the messages. I really appreciate every single of love that I've received from you guys. I read all the comments. I look at everything, and it all means like the world to me. So yeah, man, that's it for this week. I hope there is something to be gained from this. I'll talk to you again next week.